Good morning. It is the morning of April 29th, and I'm a day or two behind on this video, which ostensibly could be the last video that we're going to do on these COVID-19 forecasts. It looks like we've done a full month of these. I think this is my 10th one, and I appreciate the support and the lack of not anger or criticism, because there has been anger and criticism, but the lack of negativity and specific attack that did not present itself from this. So I know a lot of you disagree with me, and we've discussed that privately. So again, if you want to reach out to me privately and have these discussions, I'm happy to do that. But let's go ahead and look at what this curve looks like. As always, all support and credit goes to the IHME for having put this thing together. It looks like, and it appears to be nothing more than a normal distribution. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about why our normal distribution is a one hump distribution and why we can't use this why this is going to be the last video. So in the US, just like we predicted, it looks like this thing is going to downturn, and the actual deaths, with some volatility, has begun to downturn. And that I think that does include some of the actual deaths that we later shifted for, that are later associated with COVID. And then the downcrease is clear because the United States, you can see a lot of states opening up. I think the United States as a whole is going for that middle section in here, May whatever. Hopefully, we'll continue to see a continued downturn and level off over in June. I don't think that's going to be the case. Now that we are modifying some restrictions on stuff, this will probably, hopefully, turn into a long right tail. Oh man. Why don't I just draw it out like I usually do, because you guys appear to enjoy that as much as I do, and my kid has my stuff. Hold on. Sometimes the kids take my tablet, and I apologize for that. Okay, so here we have, as you know, something that looks like a normal distribution. It comes up, it goes over the top, it goes this way, and our normal distribution looks like, the integral of 1 over sigma square root of 2 pi blah blah blah, Euler's constant to the 1/2 or some variation thereof, and then x minus mu over sigma, and there are other variations here, squared, whatever. The point is that there are these variables in here, these constants off the means. This is our standard deviation, and multiple ways to write this number, right? Multiple ways to write this function. But the point that there are constants here that tell you how tall it's going to be and how short it's going to be, how wide it's going to be. The sigma tells you, here is our average height or whatever, and then 1 sigma, 2 sigma, 3 sigmas, sigma, 2 sigma, 3 sigma, and the same. And so we can tell how wide it's going to be, how tall it's going to be, or whatever. And so we have modified these constants, right? We have turned around and said, change that one, change that one, change that one. We're going to change that one. You can't change pi, but we're going to change some of these constants, and then we're going to create additional constants in here. So we're going to call, this 1/2, we're going to change it to 0.25, or we're going to change it to 0.05, or whatever it is that we're going to do, because we know that there's going to be some modifications. And those modifications in the paper included social distancing, such as social distancing, or ameliorating effects, such as social distancing and shutting down schools and theaters and concerts and all this other decisions that were made. And as the states made those calls, we were able to predict what this looks like. Well, very naturally, as these go away, then this curve here is going to change and it's going to shift. So as of the 1st of May, when Texas does their dissipation to return to some degree of normalcy, we will no longer be on this projected curve. And so we're going to get into this discussion about projected numbers and the changes, and that's a different conversation than the one we had 3 weeks ago when we were criticizing the White House projections. They were using, at that point, it was a decision about which model to use and whether or not those models were appropriately tuned in. And we did that, and this looks as good as it's going to look. Now, as of 1 May, we're going to be off model, and we could make some sort of prediction that there's going to be that extended right curve, or if there's a second hump later, or whatever. We're not going to be able to do that based off of this mathematical model, and so this is probably going to be my last video, and that's why, because these guys no longer apply. These constants are no longer going to hold. We are going to go back down to 0 or expected or whatever. And it may look like, we have these other bumps down here down the road, in which case we still are going to end up with a normal distribution. It's just going to be tall here and skewed out, something like that. And so things are going to change, and we are no longer going to be appropriate. And we will, with this particular mathematical model, not be able to appropriately predict it. And so as we make decisions on when to go back to work, that is why, I in particular I'm going to probably stop these and so forth. And so the great thing is we never went over that 2,600 number, and hopefully we'll never go over the 2,000 per day number ever again. Hopefully there'll be other medical solutions between now and then. Doctors are really great at doctoring. Research medical professionals are really great at that. Hopefully you have some sort of trust in your economists or your statisticians that are good at projecting, and our job is pretty much done. Again, it looks like hospital resource use is exactly where we have been predicting that it's going to be. The total number of beds needed are well below our total bed shortage. There hasn't been a bed shortage except for in New York in those 2-week periods at the beginning of April, which were obviously terrible. It looks like we're going to be okay in terms of capacity and ventilators, and I understand that more are being constructed, so that's great. In terms of total death, as we have discussed, our total death projected numbers based off of this model have hovered as high as 90. I think we were at 92 at one point, and as low as 68 at one point. And so we ended up something like this in terms, I think we ended here. Here we had a bunch of projections here, something like that. And so that's well within normal, that's well within the scheme. Never did we say there was going to be one way at 130 or way down here at 40. I think we had our lower at one point was down at 40, but that's not a thing. I think that proves that this thing has held out fairly well and that it looks good. And again, it does not include any other future projections because we are going to shift off of this curve and we're going to have to use a different model. There's going to be what we call a structural break between here coming May 1st, May 15th, and whatever happens over the summer, and then whatever happens in the fall, and then maybe this thing turns out to be a seasonal disease like the flu and other stuff. That's the one I want. All right, let's go take a look at Texas. Let's go back up to the top and shift over to Texas. Texas. And watch this thing shift over. I know, Jeff, you want to see the shift, so let me see if I can get it to do the shift in place. It's always nice to keep the masses entertained. Jeff is another fellow PhD, just in a different field, and he loves this stuff. Okay. You can see Texas from our projections has gone, let's draw it again. Full screen. You can see Texas over the top has gone other than this, right? And so this looks a little bit like an outlier, and there's two possible deals here. You can come up to the top here and then back down again, or if you consider that this is an outlier, question mark, then you can make a debate that we've peaked in Texas a little early and then we're coming back down. In either case, it looks like there's a downshift. I'm not sure that the governor is right when he says that we've seen a downshift for the previous 17 days. I think he's talking about cases. I would not deeply embedded in one of the videos is a long discussion about why we don't use cases, why we shouldn't be using cases, why we shouldn't be having this argument about testing. That is not an appropriate predictor for activity. If you're having a fight over testing and cases, that does not appropriately measure whether or not the disease is spreading or not spreading. I personally don't believe that an increase in testing is going to do anything more than accelerate fear. I think the hospitalization numbers and the actual number of deaths are a much, much better predictor. And you noticed, if you've been with us for a while, that I've never, ever looked at cases for that reason. And so please don't pick a fight with your friends over testing and cases. That's a political thing that's going to make you feel happy, or comfortable or safe, and it's not an actual deterrent or measurement of when we're going to get through this thing. And so Texas looks good. Let's say for a second that these numbers are actually going to be appropriate. Let me erase these guys for a second. Go back to purple. And let's say we do have an increased uptick and we come back out. We're still looking at that May 15th number as the midpoint for the downslope. So we're right on track for what we were predicting, which comes to the decision making, your personal decision making. And I can't do that for you. And I really am, I've got to get away from Facebook and all the other stuff because it's messing us up. And I'll tell you what I'm doing personally so that, whatever, you can judge me privately in the comforts of your own home. We have begun to socialize in onesies and twosies, and that's more for confidence building in the community as well as our own self-sanity. I took a bike ride yesterday with a person who is a very close friend and shall be unnamed. And I really needed it. I mean, I was at the end of my rope, and I was making poor decisions and errors, and we saw some friends yesterday. A little bit of a distance, not so much. We'll probably have somebody over for dinner here in the next 4 or 5 days, but again, onesies and twosies, slowly reintegrating. We have had a long conversation with our staff. Ongoing conversation, and we will open the office on the 18th. In our case, we can still continue to work from home and do everything we're going to do. If our clients want to see us face to face, we will set up a meeting face to face, and we will do that. Would we eat in restaurants? Yeah, probably at the 25% thing with the table spread apart a little bit. But we're actually doing a great job of saving money and eating at home. So if we do go out to eat, it'll be very minimal. And slowly but surely over the course of May, it is my intention and the intention of our family to slowly get back to normal. I expect June 1st to be, by June 1st, we should be operating as normal as possible. There is this big birthday party on June 12th. That's not going to be a big birthday party because, frankly, I'm having a lot of fun saving money right now and throwing it, being ready for the next one or being ready for some large purchase down the road or whatever. And so, I think that by the time we get to 1 June, if we're not totally and completely and fully back to normal, then we're missing something. And in order to get there, we have to take these baby steps, 2, 3, 4 weeks out. And so that's our plan. Our plan is to very slowly, starting this week, start to reintegrate our lives really, really slowly, onesies and twosies, go back to work on the 15th. By the 18th, Monday the 18th is when we're going to open the office. And then by the 1st of June, we should be operating as normal. And so that'll, whether or not we use masks and the other stuff will be a separate debate, but that's our plan. I hope these things have been helpful. I appreciate the feedback, and I am here. Feel free to reach out to me privately and personally, because this is very much a regional and local deal, and so most of the people that are watching this are friends and friends of friends, and so if you want to talk, I'm here. I don't want to get into politics and that stuff on these videos, but feel free to reach out. I'm happy to discuss it on a one-on-one basis. so long as we're being civil with each other. So appreciate the feedback. If we do another one of these, it will probably be, I don't know, different and a different deal. So this is Dr. Sergio Garcia signing off. I wish I had a funny math quote, but I've got math jokes, but not math quotes. Adios.